Hello. How many of you have ever seen a Dilbert comic strip? Okay, that's good. Well, if you've seen a Dilbert comic strip, then you know what failure looks like. But today, I'm going to give you a template for success. I would like to warn you in advance that you should not take any advice from cartoonists. If you have ever taken any important advice from a cartoonist, there's a really good chance it didn't work out. So what I'd like you to do is to look at my template for success and compare it to the crap you've been told before and make up your own mind. All right, my template for success has three main components, starting with goals are for losers, passion, totally overrated, but luck can be manipulated. Well, sort of. I'll explain that. First, a little context. I have failed many times, 36 times that I counted, and that's just in the business realm, all right? If I gave you my personal failures, that would be a whole other presentation here. I'm going to show them quickly. I don't want you to dwell on them, but they range from failures in real estate, physical businesses, internet businesses, startups. I've got intellectual property failures, movies, television shows that didn't work out. Got just about every kind of failure. I don't have time to talk about all of them, so I'll tell you one of my favorite, more embarrassing ones. When I was about 20, I had an idea for an invention. It was a brilliant idea, I thought, and it was the combination of a rosin bag that would attach to a tennis player's shorts so that they could dry their hand between points so it wouldn't slip on the racket. And I thought, this is a brilliant idea. So I took it to a patent attorney, and I showed him my idea, and he sat across the desk and he stared at me silently for a while, and then he spoke rather slowly because I think he thought that I needed that. And he explained it this way: just because you can attach two existing products with Velcro, that does not make it an invention. So although that invention failed, as many of my other projects did, I did learn a lot about intellectual property in that process, which has served me well in many other areas in life. And so too, all the other failures, they all had something to teach me. So while they didn't work, I found that just about 10% of the things that I've tried has worked out really well. Now, as it turns out, because most of the things I tried were sort of high-risk, high-reward types of things, you would really expect most of them wouldn't work, but a few of them did. One of them was this, the Dilbert comic. Wearable computing is the next big thing. This is my prototype of a necklace computer. Prepare to be shocked. Did you just talk him into wearing a remotely controlled shock collar? People think I have no goals. All right, so speaking of goals, 100 years ago, when things were simple, goals made a lot of sense, right? So if you were a farmer and you said to yourself, I think I need to clear 40 acres before winter, and that was your goal, that was very clear, it was simple. You knew that your farm next year would look a lot like your farm this year, with the exception of the 40 acres that you cleared. Everything was kind of predictable, it was simple. But today, just imagine the complexity of your cell phone. All right, you got to pick a carrier, you need a voice plan, a data plan, you got your 4G, your Wi-Fi, your apps. There's more complexity in your pocket today than the farmer's entire operation. So in this context of today, where everything's changing, you know, your life is changing, at the same time the environment is changing, having a goal is sort of like being on a horse that's galloping with a bow and arrow, and you're trying to shoot at a target that's somewhere off in the forest, in the fog. The target is also moving at the same time, and you only brought one arrow. Now, sometimes you'll hit that target. It means if enough people with enough horses shoot enough arrows, somebody's going to hit a target, right? And that person will write a book and say, goals. It's a good thing I had a goal, right? But the odds are not that good. The odds of hitting that target in this complicated world where everything's changing at the same time. Another problem is that when you're focusing on your goal, and really that's the whole point, right? If you have a goal, you're focusing on it. Otherwise, what would be the point? But while you're looking at it, maybe there's stuff out here that you're not looking at that could have been better than whatever your goal was. So you might be missing a whole bunch of stuff that are great opportunities you just didn't notice. So given these limits of goals, what's better? What's better than a goal? Well, I would recommend a system. And I'll define a system this way. So it's something that you do on a regular basis that improves your odds, but not in a way that has a specific goal. In other words, your odds of success are better, but you don't know exactly where this is heading yet. And importantly, and this is really the key to it, you want to make sure that your personal value is increasing even if your projects are failing miserably. Because in the long run, that improvement in your value and the odds are going to work out well. Let me give you some examples of a system versus a goal. When I was in high school, I had a friend, Manuel. Manuel and I both liked girls, and we both wanted to have girlfriends. But we had two very different approaches to this. I had what I would call sort of a goal-oriented approach at the time. I would pick a specific girl that I thought I wanted to make my girlfriend. And I would spend months trying to figure out how to run into her accidentally and find out who her friends are and what interests she had. And after my months of planning and preparation, usually I would discover that one of three outcomes were possible. Number one, she would say, I have a boyfriend. Number two, she would say, I do not like you. But sometimes, and this is the important part, sometimes, and it didn't happen a lot, sometimes she would say, I have a boyfriend and I don't like you. So on the plus side, I did not contribute to teen pregnancy whatsoever. My friend Manuel had a completely different approach. He had more of a systems approach. He would go into a room full of women or girls, and he would say to each one of them, would you like to be my girlfriend? Or would you like to be my girlfriend? Or words to that effect. And of course, his failure rate was tremendous, but because of the law of numbers, he would usually find somebody who would say yes. But this isn't a story about just the law of numbers. That part is somewhat obvious. What was interesting is that every time Manuel went through his process, he was learning a skill. He was learning which pickup lines were working best. He was kind of doing A/B testing on these girls. And he was also learning to take rejection, so that no matter what happened, he was becoming more valuable as it went. Here's another example. I've got a friend who was my tennis partner who had a process that I'd never seen before. He would interview for jobs that he didn't want. They would be jobs that paid substantially less than he was already making, or jobs that had unpleasant commutes. There were things he would never take, even if offered to him. But he worked at home in a technology job, and so this allowed him to network, to meet people he wouldn't have met otherwise. And he also used it as practice. All right? So every time he went to an interview, he became better at selling himself. One day, about a month ago, he said, I won't be able to play tennis with you every Wednesday because I went into this job interview for yet another job that I knew I didn't want. And at the end of the interview, the interviewer said, well, you're totally overqualified for this position, but the head of the department left. You'd be perfect for that job. So that's the job he took with a huge promotion. That's a system over a goal. He didn't go in there for that job, but he increased his odds every time he followed his system.